Hello everyone and welcome back to Call Sign Charlie Models. It's time for another update on this Seahawk build, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of a swapperoo. Usually on Saturdays we do the MH-60 Foxtrot Seahawk, but looking at the kit I do need to put a clear coat on it before I do all the 3D printed decals. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do a little swap, and we're going to do the 60 Jayhawk on Saturdays moving on, and the Seahawk will be done on Sundays. So today with the Jayhawk we're going to be getting all the 3D printed decals onto the interior parts, so that way we can move forward with the matte coat and some final weathering on that. And then tomorrow what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing the 3D printed decals on the interior of the Seahawk. So let's get back down to the workbench and we'll get to work. So I will see you in 1 second. Alright, so starting off, we're using the Kellic 3D printed decals for this. They are from Res Kit. So getting everything ready for glue, getting that on, and then we just soak the decals in water for about 15 seconds, and then we can apply it to the model. I am using super glue for these because I'm really not worried about fogging, because they are going to be sitting for so long before you even get to the glass work. So that super glue is going to have plenty of time to vent before getting the clear parts on. So really don't have to worry about the fogging aspect of the super glue. So just keep on going. I will say that the Quinta Studios detail on their decals are a little bit better, but the Kellic decals do have a better color match for the instrument panels and all that than what the Quinta Studios does. And I also do have the Quinta Studios set that I will be using some parts of that in a little bit, but we're also getting the cyclic and the collective levers done as well. Same thing, soak in water, pull it off, apply some glue, and attach. And just nice and easy. I use the Zap CA glue. It's nice. It dries pretty quickly, but it gives you a couple seconds to move it into place. So you really do need to move fast on this, but you don't have to be lightning fast. And we're getting a little decal onto the side. We had another one on the other side from the Quinta Studios, but I didn't have that on camera. Now we're adding the radio control switch for the back right here. And now we have another one for this electronics box right here, not a seat. That part's going to be covered up by a stowage kit. And as you can see here, the Quinta Studios decal sets, they do have some levers and such that the Kellic kit does not have. So we're adding those in to add a little bit more of a 3D aspect to this kit. And also some more details on the rotor brake that were not included in the Kellic kit as well. Got a little decal for this. This is from the Quinta Studios. The Kellic one, after I found out, does have like the full radio panel. And now we're adding in some detail onto the hoist operator's control panel right here. Getting that done. And now we need to scrape off this one piece using the Tamiya chisel. Right here, I'm not really worried about the paint or anything, because we have that giant 3D printed piece going in there that's going to cover all of that up. And again, I have to repeat because we have the circuit breaker panel that's on the top that we need to scrape off, make a nice flat surface for the 3D printed decal to go on here in just a second, as you see, and that really does look nice. Alright, so now adding on the seat belts. These are aftermarket seats, and these seat belts were meant for the kit parts, so the fit is not 100%, but they do look pretty good. So I got the seat belts glued in, and then I'm just pushing them down and forming them to the seats, and then we'll put on the lap belts here in just a second. The lap belts for this one did fight me a little bit on trying to get them attached and then folded down. A couple of them just did not want to fold, but with a little bit of motivation, they did end up sticking and staying. Like this one right here just did not want to stay folded down, so I had to hold it for a good bit before it finally caved in and cooperated with me. All right, and up next we have the crotch belt. Again, these weren't made for these seats. They were meant for the kit seats, which are a lot smaller than what these seats are. But these seats still do fit very nicely. So that was one thing I was really worried about, was with the difference in width of those seats on how they would fit. All right, so now we get to start assembling the interior. The fit of the back wall was very tight, so I had to use some Tamiya glue to soften up the plastic to get those to fit in. Once the Tamiya glue took effect, they did slide right into place. And getting this back wall on, this was actually a pretty nice fit on this back side. No real issues with this one. It just slid right into place and then glued it in with no issues on that. Just holding it in place for a second so we can get it to really set and dry before we start doing a lot of other detail work to the interior right here. And adding some more glue just to really get that to set and dry, because there was a little bit of a warp on that side. Not nearly as bad as the other side, but just a little bit of a warp that we got into place. Now the instructions would call to have the back wall and then the cockpit bulkhead put in, and then you go in and add these afterwards. But I went a little bit different because I wanted to be able to add in all the stowage and the wiring and cabling and all that, and the seats, without having to worry about the cockpit wall or any other things that might get in the way. So now we're checking out the rescue swimmer seat. We had a little bit of trimming to do to get it to fit, but after that just glued it to the bulkhead and the floor, and we got that in place. That seat really looks nice. I'm really happy with that seat. Now the flight engineer seat, I'm not happy with. That's the one part of this whole interior that I do not like at all. So now we're adding in the survivor seats. We got this rail to add in. I did need to do some modifications to the kit to get it to fit along that side, because in the kit they don't have seats on that, or I might have used the wrong rails. But I only wanted to have 2 survivor seats, so we had to use the short rail. And like I said, had to do some modifications, get that nice and flat so we can slide this bar right into it and glue it in. Getting the super glue to dry. Actually no, on this one I used just the Tamiya Quickset, and after a while fighting me, I ended up using super glue just to really strengthen the bond of that. Doing a quick test fit on the hoist operator's wall right there. We'll be coming back to that here in a little while. Alright, so now I'm going to wrap the cord. Just wrapping some 0.2 millimeter lead wire around a piece of brass wire to get that coil effect, and then I'm going to tighten it up, loosen it up as we go, just to give that effect, and then I'll paint it off camera with the MRP tire rubber black. So now we're getting the survivor seats in. One thing I did notice after I had assembled everything was I forgot to put the straps on the back of the seat. Luckily, not really a big deal because you cannot see that anyways when they are in the model. Alright, so now we're attaching a comms cord. This would be the cord that the rescue swimmer would hook up to his helmet. Right here, so getting that glued in, and then we're going to kind of anchor it in place with a little dot of glue. Get it in. Right, like so. And then the other seat. The seat that I am not happy with at all. Luckily, it's kind of hidden, and you can't really see it that well, except for those rails, which, like I said, I wish I would have cut those a little bit shorter, but that's after the fact. Alright, so now we're getting in the hoist operator's control panel right here. Got a little cord to add in because he can disconnect that from the console right there and take it with him to the door so he can control what he is seeing, or control the hoist while maintaining visual contact around. Then doing some touch-up paint because we still had some of the lead wire showing through on the paint. And now we are going to get that piece attached. This is where we start running into the issues with the warpage of this side of the flight deck or the cabin. And this back wall popped out a little bit, so I had to re-glue that, and then getting this bulkhead, the starboard side aft bulkhead, glued in into place right there. Now we're doing a test fit with the overhead, trying to see how it fits. Again, like the bottom section, we're going to have to glue the holes to make the plastic a little bit soft so we can squeeze that into place. And now I'm doing kind of a test of how I'm going to do the stowage, but I kind of hold off until the end on that. Now we're getting those electronics racks glued in. Then another test with the basket. I put the basket up here at first, but then I ended up putting it or pulling it back out and repositioning it a little bit later on. Then now trying to figure out how I'm going to put the P6 pump in. Just shows you how tight the storage is on these birds, because they have to have all this equipment on top of putting in survivors, and I didn't even include the medical bags or the medical equipment that they have on the Jayhawk or the Dolphin. And the Dolphin is an even smaller cabin, so that's even more amazing that they're able to fit all of this stuff in the cabin. So this bulkhead right here is where we're having some major issues, because this is where the majority of the warp on the cabin deck is in this section. So it's causing me a lot of a headache and a lot of fight to get this piece in place and I ended up having to go back and pull it out and go in and with the top overhead in and do some restorage and all that stuff going on. You'll see that here in a second. But this part was definitely the majority of the headache for this entire day came from this part right here. This part and the aft bulkhead for the cockpit were the two major headaches of the day. Alright, so now we're getting the overhead glued in. This side, no issues. Went in like a glove, didn't have any problems with it, no fights, no nothing with it, and went on perfectly. Now when we get onto this side, up front, we start running into issues. Number one, the electronics console was too far forward, so I had to bump those off and then re-glue them, and then also a few other parts were going to be causing an issue a little bit later on with that cockpit aft bulkhead. So you can see here I'm fighting it, and I end up pulling it off, and then we break off everything from the inside, and then we're going to reattach it. The basket actually stuck really good, so I had to pry that off slowly. Luckily, the side that it has the glue and a little bit of damage to it, you can't really see it, so kind of a saving factor on that. Alright, now figure out how we're going to place the basket. Okay, and now we're going to start getting this piece in. Now that I've got everything in, I start gluing it from the top, because the top was a good fit. So we didn't have any issues with the top side because it was a straight piece. There's no warpage on that piece. And then we're going to use that, and we're going to get the bottom straightened out with a little bit of force. Alright, so now we come into the second headache with this aft bulkhead for the cockpit. This thing did not want to fit. I had to do a lot of modifications to the kit to get it to fit. Number one, this bar up here that you can see running right along the side, I had to pry that off. As you can see right here, prying that off. And then also I had to cut down the little nubs on the edge of the cabin walls right there to get it to fit as well, because there is a gap between the cabin walls and that bulkhead now. So come to find out, that little lip that's on the back edge of the bulkhead, I did need to cut that off to even get it to be remotely a good fit. on it. So that's what I'm doing right now. Sorry, I'm off camera, but we're getting that cut off so we can get a good fit on there. Or nope, not this time. Now I'm doing it. Do a little bit of sanding to smooth out the edge. And now we're going to be gluing that back into place. Hopefully, seems like it's working this time. Just add a little bit of super glue just to really strengthen those joints. And now we're adding in the seats. But first on the, I want to do a little bit more super glue to strengthen that bond. And then we're going to add this cyclic on this, or the collective on this side because it is inboard of the seat. So just to make sure that I have an easier attachment of this piece, we're going to attach that first before we attach the seat. Had a rudder pedal broke off while I was handling it a couple weeks ago. Luckily I was able to find the piece and save it. Now I'm attaching it because I'm not going to be handling this as much anymore. But that thing fought me. Ended up having to use the zip kicker to get it to stick because I tried it for a few minutes and finally had to go with the nuclear option. Adding a fire bottle in that I forgot to put in earlier. Life would have been a lot easier if I would have done it earlier because getting it in now was a headache. Of course, the one part that fit the best, the dashboard, I didn't have on camera. Alright, so now the interior is all done. Let's take a quick look at it. As you can see here, just doing a quick spin around. You are going to be able to see a good amount of this when it is all done because I am going to have the back cabin open along with those windows. Alright, so that's it. So I'll see you at the computer here in just a second. Alright, so that's everything for the Jayhawk build today. Got a lot done with the interior with the 3D printed decals, and we actually got everything assembled. And as you can see, that was a fight and a half to get that done. I just feel like I got out of the boxing ring after full 9 rounds with that. The fit of it just did not want to fit everything. Some areas would fit really nice and other areas just fought, especially with the warpage of the deck. That caused more of an issue. But as you can see, with everything on, the warpage is fixed. We only have a slight little warp to go. And once we get that into the fuselage half, we should be able to get that all settled out. Some of the areas just did not want it, especially that front cockpit or the back cockpit bulkhead. That thing was an absolute freaking nightmare to get in, and I'm so glad that it's done and over with. I'm just hoping that it doesn't cause any fit issues, any more fit issues later on, because next week we are getting the fuselage halves together. And with the Kitty Hawk 60 series, from previous builds I've done of them, I do know that the fuselage half mating step is a nightmare. So we're going to see how bad this one is. Hopefully it's not too bad, but with how much of a fight it's been so far, I'm guessing that we're going to be in for a fight. And that's really all I have to say. Next week we're going to get the fuselage halves together. We're going to get the nose section on from Warner's Wings that makes it actually a Jayhawk. And after that, we have a lot of other bits and odd ends and all that other stuff to go. And then we also got to start re-riveting this thing, because, as you know, the kit has recessed rivet, and on the actual 60s, they have positive rivets or raised rivets. So we got to go through and redo all of those. But other than that, that's all I got. I'm really excited for next week because, like I said, we're going to make a major milestone with this build. And we're really going to start ramping up with this. So I want to thank everybody for sticking around and watching this, and I hope you guys stick around for next week. And I hope you guys are really enjoying these builds. If you haven't yet, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below, hit the bell button for notifications of when I post future videos. And until next time, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you then.